Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is a talk video, and this week we are getting Shin Hati. We are doing this video a little bit earlier, so she hasn't been added to the game yet, so no gear breakdown, or that is going to have to wait till later. She's arriving as our first mercenary character and an unaligned force user attacker, and she is another data point for why I should go and finally finish watching Ahsoka. Now, with our attributes and tips portion of the insights, she is going to be ignoring taunt, and she's introducing Soldier of Fortune, a new effect for mercenaries. And think of that a little bit like how momentum or persistence works. With the tips, CG tells us to maintain her crit chance and avoid getting critically hit in order to gain those stacks of Soldier of Fortune, which may mean a critical chance set with a crit avoidance arrow, which is something I doubt many of us have on hand, so something for us to get hunting for. We're also going to want to attack stunned enemies. That's going to be boosting damage, and her granted ability Clean Escape is going to help mercenaries gain additional effects and inflict debuffs based on Soldier of Fortune stacks. With her kit, we are starting with the unique ability. We do this sometimes when I feel like a unique or leadership is critical to understanding the attack ability. So in this case, we're going to do the second unique, first unique, then proceed through the attack abilities, ending on the granted ability. Her second unique, Soldier Fortune, Shin Hati. I imagine all these Balin Skull mercenaries are going to have Soldier Fortune, whatever their name is. At the battle start, Shin Hati gains 1 stack Soldier Fortune per relic amplifier level, which probably means we're going to want her at higher relics, and we're going to have her at relic 7 anyway, but this is a good incentive to do it regardless. Whenever Shin Hati scores a critical hit or attacks out of turn, she gains a stack of Soldier of Fortune. Whenever Shin Hati is critically hit, she loses a stack of Soldier of Fortune. So here we have the foundation of the kit mechanics, Soldier of Fortune, how we gain the stacks, how we lose them. It's all derived from either inflicting the crits or taking those crits. And this last part, at the start of each mercenary ally's turn, they gain 5% crit chance and critical damage stacking for each stack of Soldier Fortune they have until the start of their next turn. And that is kind of nice, because what it means is Shin Hati's presence alone means the other mercenaries who have Soldier Fortune mechanics, either within their own kits or gained from a future leader, will obtain benefits from Shin Hati's presence with that extra crit chance and crit damage. The first unique ability, You Have No Power. This is an Omicron ability. At each encounter start, Shin Hati gains 25% accuracy and 50% offense until the encounter end, and she ignores taunt effects during her turn. Ignoring taunt is the key mechanic. That's going to tie into her attack abilities and help boost her damage. Whenever Shin Hati is critically hit, she gains retribution for 2 turns and 150 speed for 1 turn. This is going to help lessen the impact of receiving those critical hits. We know from the Soldier of Fortune unique that Shin Hati is going to lose a stack of Soldier of Fortune from being critically hit. And now we have a cost for our opponents. Shin will gain retribution, which when triggered will allow her to replenish those stacks of Soldier Fortune since she gains them on attacks out of turn. And on top of this speed boost, which should allow her to take a quick turn right away and boost Soldier of Fortune with her attack. The first time Shin Hati gains 10 or more stacks of Soldier of Fortune, she gains the granted ability Clean Escape for the rest of the battle. We're going to want to achieve that as quickly as possible, and that is an incentive to bring her to those higher relics even prior to having Balin Skull if we're trying to get some utility out of her in advance of that unlock. If Soldier of Fortune is below 10, then we can't use the granted ability Clean Escape. Our Omicron ability, this is a Territory War Ami, and this is a big one here, so bear with me. At the encounter start, Shin Hati gains 75% accuracy and 30 speed. All allies gain 50% max health and max protection until the first time Shin Hati is defeated, and all light side enemies are immune to cooldown reduction for 2 turns or until the first time Shin Hati is defeated. And that is a big data point saying potential GL counter, and there's going to be more. While enemies are inflicted with Purge, they have minus 50% crit damage and minus 30 speed. That's subtly really significant, especially if it's going to be something like a GL slowing down all of the speed on those teams. Whenever enemies attack 3 times out of turn, Shin Hati gains 1 stack Soldier Fortune, and the cooldown of Clean Escape is decreased by 3. So a team with a lot of assists like a JMK team, now that is facilitating Soldier of Fortune mechanics. So if JMK gets his ultimate off and starts creating a bunch of attacks out of turn, Soldier of Fortunes is stacking faster, and we're able to in turn use the granted ability more frequently. And because JMKs aren't typically on defense, it also means teams like a Kellerin team are going to really be struggling up against Shin Hati. Whenever a light side enemy gains damage immunity, they are inflicted with fear for 1 turn, which can't be resisted, and Shin Hati gains a bonus turn. Now we have a situation of stacking effects, especially for JMK, where JMK at the start of the battle, if he tries to use his second special, then he can't reduce cooldowns, but now he can't only not reduce cooldowns, the damage immunity he's placing onto a character is going to have consequences where that character will be feared and is going to grant Shin Hati an opportunity to get her attacks off. And this portion is going to continue throughout the battle. Every time JMK is reducing the cooldowns and placing damage immunity, Shin Hati is going to get that turn. Additionally, the granted ability Clean Escape has these effects based on the number of Shin Hati's stacks of Soldier of Fortune. 20 plus stacks, all mercenaries are revived. At 35 plus stacks, Shin Hati increases the cooldowns of the light side target enemy to their max value. And both of these just scream Cat counter. So we have a situation where if Cat can even get off her insta-kill, now with enough stacks of Soldier of Fortune, Shin Hati is going to just revive whoever Cat took out. And then at 35 plus stacks, Shin Hati is a situation where that 9 turn cooldown on Cat's ability is going to be triggered, where she's not even going to be able to get that armor shred off if she was lucky enough to get the insta-kill off. So this may be a very niche and targeted territory war Omicron, where it's clearly just saying JMK counter, which that might reduce its utility a little bit, but it's still going to be very effective up against those Keller and Beck squads because of all those attacks out of turn, or even some squads like Gungans who have a lot of attack out of turns. There's some opportunity here for some flexibility, but it's definitely a good Omicron. It just might be a little too specific for some players, but I think it is definitely one of the better ones we've seen of late, other than Kellerins, of course. And now on to the attacks. Basic, Fierce Foray, physical damage to the target and inflict crit chance down. If Shin Hati has 10 or more stacks of Soldier of Fortune, AoE inflict crit chance down instead. So this is strong. It's going to help reduce the loss of Soldier of Fortune stacks by minimizing the amount of crits she's absorbing, and a basic inflicting an AoE means this will be persistent. It means on the counters she is getting from her unique ability, she's going to be throwing out AoE crit chance downs. During Shin Hati's turn, call the target other mercenary ally to assist. That's impressive. You don't see that on a basic ability. That's usually reserved for special abilities. Remember this one for the future though, because we don't know how this is going to synergize. It's probably going to end up calling Balin, but not necessarily. So just put a little mark on that one. We will have to see what the future brings. And here's the big one that ties into the unique. If the target enemy was stunned, deal 10% more damage per stack of Soldier of Fortune, maxing out at 100. And we should be able to get 10 stacks of Soldier of Fortune pretty early. So we should be maxing this ability out early in the battle. And this is also why it is important that she gets around taunt. We want to be hunting those stunned enemies to max out our damage. Also, this suggests that teams that are immune to stuns, like Starkiller, may be a valuable counter if we see this on defense. The first special, I have eyes on them, AoE physical damage and AoE inflict with offense down and vulnerable. Vulnerable is going to guarantee critical hits, so this is a key part of the special. We will want to hit those debuffs to rapidly gain those Soldier of Fortune stacks and max out all those abilities. This also means we will want to use this ability first. Get the vulnerable out there so that we can feed the Soldier of Fortune stacking. Shin Hati gains 10% crit avoidance. That's stacking maxing out at 50% for the rest of the encounter whenever each of these debuffs are resisted. That's interesting. It makes me wonder how we're going to mod if there's any incentive to reduce the potency secondaries. But since she's only maxing out at 50%, it's probably not a big deal, and it's probably more valuable to try and land the vulnerable, especially when you consider buffs like tenacity. Going up maybe against those kinds of squads will just give us the opportunity we need to max out our crit avoidance. But it also means that she's not completely vulnerable to those squads, because it's creating these opportunities where if Shin Hati is getting resisted, she is gaining a mechanic on her end that is going to reduce the chances that she gets crit and loses Soldier of Fortune. All mercenary allies gain 30% protection up for 2 turns. We've been seeing a lot of this protection up mechanic in the past couple years. Not necessarily this version, but just we've been seeing protection up in a lot of kits. If Shin Hati has 10 or more stacks of Soldier of Fortune, she gains 25% turn meter and AoE increase enemy cooldowns. So that's a big boost of this ability, and like with the basic ability where we're maxing out at 10 stacks of Soldier of Fortune, we get a big increase in the functionality of this ability at 10 stacks of Soldier of Fortune. Our second special will take it from here, physical damage to the target enemy and stun for 1 turn. For the moment, this is our only stun, and our basic does big damage on stun, so without some help, this mechanic is going to be limited for the moment. But while we are waiting for the full picture of mercenary characters to surround with Shin Hati, we should be looking for the characters who are going to be adding stuns to the squad. So maybe pulling like a Han Solo over for a stun is going to have some short-term value. Shin Hati gains crit damage up and riposte for 2 turns. Both are going to help her mechanics. Riposte is going to add ignoring protection to her counters, and is going to add that extra damage from her crits, which the first special after landing vulnerable, we're going to have some good opportunities to get a bunch of those. If Shin Hati has 15 or more stacks of Soldier of Fortune, attack again, always scoring a critical hit if able, and decrease the cooldown of Clean Escape by 1. The 15 stack trigger here to me is an indication that we're going to want to use this after the first special and the Clean Escape. The Clean Escape note is a sign that we're going to want to use this after the granted ability. So the turn order that I'm seeing is we're going to do the first special, granted ability, second special. And if the target enemy is inflicted with Purge, Shin Hati inflicts buff immunity on them for 2 turns and deals 10% bonus damage for each stack of Purge they have. So Purge synergy with Merrick at a minimum. Buff immunity is going to be helpful against those tenacity up squads. Bonus damage is potentially a big attack. Our granted ability, Clean Escape. One note here though, nothing in here says what the cooldown on this is. Just we know we get it triggered at 10 stacks and we can't use it with less than 10 stacks. But we have multiple abilities referring to reducing the cooldowns on Clean Escape. So keep that in mind, that'll probably get clarified shortly. With Clean Escape, the effects are based on the stacks of Shin Hati's Soldier of Fortune. At 10 plus stacks, she's going to self-cleanse debuffs and gain 30% max health until the end of the counter, all non-tank allies' stealth. The max health does not appear to be stacking, but it looks like a one-time effect of gaining that max health. Maybe we'll hear clarification on that as well. At 20 plus stacks, she is going to dispel buffs on the target. Shin Hati gains crit hit immunity and health steal up, and AoE inflicts defense down. So we get a mechanic that is going to help gain more stacks of Soldier Fortune, and she is going to get rid of buffs and inflict debuffs. At 35 plus stacks, all mercenary allies gain foresight and offense up. Shin Hati removes 100% turn meter and AoE dazes the enemies. It feels like we are going to be wanting to use this ability early and often. We just gain a lot of effects, and at every level those effects are going to be beneficial towards the squad and detrimental to the opponent. That is a very promising start to the new mercenary tag. I'm really liking this kit and what we're seeing, even though we don't have a full picture here. And I encourage all of you guys to go after her and Balin Skull and GL Ahsoka. Everything in this game is pushing us towards new content. I've been saying this for a long time now, but with The Last Conquest, with everything that we're seeing, that is becoming clearer and clearer. So thank you for watching. Be excellent to each other, everybody. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.